My father was a Nigerian from a part of Nigeria which was known in his day as Biafra, and my mother was from Jamaica, and she came from a place called Manchester, in a county called Manchester, in a place near a town called Mandeville and a little village called Knockpatrick. She was born in 1921 and my father was born in 1926. So my father left Nigeria in the early 50s, maybe well before that actually, I can't remember which age, etc. But he left really because he basically lied about his age and managed to come over and join the RAF. And he was in the RAF within Britain, got sent to places like Malta, etc. And then when he left that, he already had a wife from a previous marriage. He left that and went off to try and become a lawyer. And in between his marriages, he met my mother in London, at a bus stop, of all places. Mum had come over in the 50s to come over as a nurse, to study as being a nurse, and unfortunately when she came here, she wasn't allowed to become a nurse because they decided they weren't going to employ brown women anymore. She had a letter from a hospital telling her about that, and so that was in about 1954. But my parents met in 1959, I think, as I say, at a bus stop. Early life, I was born in Hackney Hospital in the East End of London in 1960, and I spent my first part of my childhood there. My brother was born in 1964 at a hospital just down the road in Hackney called the Mothers Hospital, which was part of the Salvation Army. And in 1965, my father qualified as a barrister and decided to take us to Nigeria. So we left in 65 by first class liner down to Nigeria, and we lived in Nigeria from 1965. And at the time, the Civil War just broke out in about, I think it was 66. My father was interned in prison in Nigeria, and we were evacuated back to England in 1967 with my mother, whilst my father was still in prison, and then he was released in 1968. That takes you up to my 8 years old, roughly. Don't forget, I was born in England, so my early memories of England were really quite memorable. I can remember very clearly at the age of 3 the very cold winter of 63. I can remember JFK dying. I can remember 1965, the funeral of Winston Churchill. My grandmother used to come over from Jamaica, so it was really an incredible time. There were a lot of Caribbean people and Nigerian people who'd come over to study within the UK, and so life was pretty good. For me, life really changed when we came back from Nigeria after the Civil War. My hair was totally grey and my skin turned totally grey. Many people say it was due to shock. But one of the things I'm really happy about when I look back on that part of my life is that no one ever really diagnosed me with a mental health difficulty or shock or trauma, even though I did have those things. What I found was just great, lots of loving people to be around, lots of really supportive people, which really helped me get through that. So 1968, my father came out of prison, and then the next sort of 3 years, we did find that actually, even though I was doing really well at my local primary school, I wasn't really studying because I had studied when I was much younger in Nigeria, and then I was out of school for 2 years, so I actually was just doing things by memory. And so even though I was the head of my class in the local primary school, the standard wasn't very high. So then my father got me tested and realized that I wasn't doing as well as he had thought. Anyway, that gets us to about 1970, when he then decides that we're going to go and live in Jamaica. So in April 71, as a whole family, we had left England to go and live in Jamaica of the April 1971. I went to school in Jamaica between the April and in the September I came back to go to prep school in the UK. So in terms of being a black guy at prep school, bear in mind I had been already a Negro, and I think at that stage I was called a coloured boy in those days, because the term black wasn't really into my later years did that come in. So the first part of my life at prep school was quite traumatic, in the sense that the first day I was asked to clean my head prefect's shoes, and I jokingly said, because I had just come from Jamaica, that slavery ended, I think it was 1860 or something. And the next thing I knew, I was taken to the headmaster's office and beaten and told that if a prefect asked me to do something, I should do something. And so that was my first sort of cultural shock into the world of boarding school and prep school. And that I only stayed a year at that school, because the school I then went on to took people in at 10 and a half, and I was coming up to my 11 and a half birthday, so I was at the top end of being able to get into that school, and I went to that school, and that was called Christ Hospital. It's taken me really till about 2010 to be very comfortable being a black person within anywhere, partly because I have come through many different situations whereby being black has impacted upon my life. I would say to some people that I've actually internalized racism towards myself. What I mean by that is, as a black person in a predominantly white world, I have taken on a lot of belief systems about the stereotypes that come out about black people. So I found that very difficult. It's taken me till I was about 50 before I could really feel comfortable being in my own skin as a black person. If you ask me the question, what are my hopes for the future? Wow, that's changed a lot, because I was so fixed and rigid in some of the things I wanted to do in the future and now I'm really trying to focus on being in the present, because I'm finding that in the present some of the magical things happen. It's still very nervy because I've wanted to be in control and in charge, but one of the things about my name, if people don't know, Chukumeka means thank God. And then we had another surname, which was Oho Chuku, and Oho Chuku means in God's own time. So those are the two names that mean a lot to me, and that's really what my hopes are for the future, to do things, thank God, and in God's own time.